Okay.
Look at me, looking all professional on my computer. Because we're good at this stuff,
I'm
right?
sending an email.
Look at me doing professional business stuff on my computer.
Wait, give me your cell phone.
No, my cell
give me-
phone. Stop.
I need your cell phone. I need to make 2 phone calls at the same time.
I need to make a business call.
Give me
Here you go.
Sell everything.
Call.
Tell him to sell.
Roger Goodell.
Tell him to sell.
Roger Goodell. Sell the Redskins.
Sell it. Sell them.
They're racist.
Okay.
Anyway, did you hear about Mike Ditka? Mike
Here we
Ditka
go.
said like all the people complaining about the Redskins names are like liberals or some shit. It was hilarious.
Everyone complaining about the Redskins is lame.
On a totally different note on that issue, you heard what Phil Simms said?
Oh, no, I didn't.
He will only refer to them as Washington.
The Washington professional football team.
The Washington Football Club. Whatever.
Club.
He said he will not refer to them by the team name, just the
So
city.
I read some column written by a
By the way, guys, this is our receiver video, not to confuse you.
there are receivers on the Washington football team.
Oh, we will be talking about some of them.
Okay, just tell me what you think about this argument first of all. Some columnist I read wrote an article that basically said these are like prominent Native American tribes, right? Prominent Native American, actually high schools with a large Native American population, and their names, their team names are actually the Redskins, like at a number of high schools.
Sure.
And these people don't find the term offensive.
All right, some black people don't find the N-word offensive.
Hold on.
Okay.
Just don't.
I want to state my point.
I'm not saying that. I don't think he's right, but I'm just saying it's kind of like it was an interesting. He's saying like white people are freaking out for a minority, but I don't think he's right. It just was an argument I'd never seen before.
That's interesting. I mean, another argument that I saw regarding it, and I promise we'll get into football after this.
This is just us. This is us just going off the dome.
Yeah. Someone said that, like, the Cleveland Indians, their logo is more offensive than the Redskins team name.
Have you seen a Cleveland Indians hat the last couple of years?
Did they change it?
It's just got a C on it.
Well, the logo that you see, like, actually, like, on, like, the TV, they still have not changed the official team logo yet.
I don't. Mostly it's just a C.
Guys, whichever one it is, you'll see it in the bottom right corner.
I mean, they got rid of like Chief Wahoo out in left field, who used to bang.
No, but
a
I
drum
think
and
that's he's still there. You see, he's like the big red Indian with the feather in his hair and the big goofy teeth. Like, yeah, that's probably more racist than the Redskins team name.
That's pretty bad. Yeah, that's
pretty bad. And the reason they don't get as much attention is because you go after the NFL, which is this huge growing organization. You're going to get a lot more support. Whereas baseball, it's like, I don't know.
Whatever.
It's interesting, though, that the Redskins are getting the heat and, like, the Cleveland Indians are not.
Well,
anyway.
Indians not like a...
No, it's not the name. It's the logo that's offensive.
Well, yeah. But that's what I'm trying to say. Like, their uniforms don't even feature that logo anymore.
Yeah. Regardless,
however,
guys,
when you Google them...
When you Google them, it does show up.
Yeah,
so, regardless, welcome to the Alec and Alex Fantasy Experience. Today, we are going to be going over our top 30 wide receivers. We're going to be breaking them up into 3 tiers for ease of comparing them. If you just want to look at our rankings and then ask us some questions about particular players, there's this glorious thing called the comments section.
Just head on down.
Head on down there. You can hit me up on Twitter at Merciless Walrus or go to the new Alec and Alex Fantasy Show Facebook page.
It's going to be cool.
Super dope. We'll be responding to you guys on there and interacting with you and posting all kinds of goofy stuff of Jay Cutler smoking cigarettes.
Oh, man.
Smoking Jay. So, without further ado, Tier 1 of receivers shouldn't surprise you too much. Number 1, we've got Calvin Johnson.
Man among boys.
Number 2, 3, and 4 are really debatable in order.
Yeah, I agree.
Number 2, we technically have A.J. Green. 3, Demaryius Thomas. 4, Dez Bryant. And 5, Brandon Marshall. And personally, the more I think about it, I want to put Dez Bryant number 2.
Number 2?
So here's my argument for that.
Right,
the Cowboys are going to be behind all the time.
Okay.
Their defense is horrible.
Yep.
And Dez Bryant, from an athletic standpoint, can catch pretty much any ball that Calvin Johnson can.
Okay. That's the argument?
That's the argument. Counter. As a Demaryius Thomas fan.
Oh, no. I think
As an A.J. Green fan.
I think A.J. Green offers a little more consistency than Dez Bryant.
That's
Dez
fair.
Bryant has an injury history that A.J. Green doesn't.
Also fair.
But Tony Romo's a whole lot better than Andy Dalton. I don't think you're crazy taking Demaryius as the second receiver.
You mean Dez?
Oh yeah, Well, Demaryius either.
Long story short, AJ, Demaryius, and Dez. We love all three of them. I mean, Demaryius, we didn't really talk about him, but he's got. I think this guy Peyton Manning throwing them he's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
And Demaryius, while he's not quite the athletic freak that Calvin Johnson and Dez he's still pretty.
Which is weird. I mean, he's a great athlete, but most of his scores last year were off short passes that he
doesn't necessarily
had some crazy move and a lot of yards after catch, which you would think year to year isn't particularly sustainable, but it has been somewhat sustainable for Demaryius. So I don't know, but I do think Demaryius, from kind of the mocks I've done and stuff I've seen, is going ahead of AJ Green and Dez Bryant.
He is.
I don't necessarily think I'd do that.
I don't think it's insane, and I don't judge people for doing that. If you took Demaryius ahead of those two, you're not doing a bad job, but he's in a much more crowded offense. He's got both Julius Thomas and Wes Welker and Emmanuel Sanders to replace Eric Decker.
Right.
So there are going to be games where his production drops, whereas AJ Green and even Dez Bryant, unlike Demaryius Thomas, they're going to get consistent targets.
Yeah, let's put it this way. I think if Dez Bryant plays as much as AJ Green does, he's a better fantasy player.
I think that's fair. Okay. I would agree with that. And I think if Dez Bryant plays under 12 games, I would rather have AJ.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think,
and he very well could play.
I think on a per play basis, Dez Bryant is probably a better player.
Yeah. But let's also talk about Brandon Marshall, and we might as well start to go into Tier 2 with Alshon Jeffery, who we have as number 7. Can there be
I was about to ask the same
players that are that good, 2 receivers nonetheless, that are top 10 at their position in the same offense?
Only one condition. You need to have Josh McCown as your quarterback.
Clearly. So are you saying that this will not be sustained with Jay Cutler at the helm?
Nah, I was just joking. McCown.
Josh McCown has not lould good in the preseason, by the
way. Probably because he's not good.
Yeah.
I mean, so look, here's the thing. I'm not concerned about Alshon Jeffery and Brandon Marshall.
So refreshing.
So refreshing.
We're not advertising. We're not sponsored by Coca-Cola, but
if we were, it's a great drink. Had one earlier today. It's good.
Yum.
No, so I think anyway. I think Alshon Jeffery and Brandon Marshall can coexist happily. They did over the last since when did Alshon come on last year? Like around week 6, 7.
Yeah, he wasn't hot right out the gate. He was a waiver pickup who we told you to get.
Yeah, we actually did, right? We were on the Alshon.
We were on that right away.
He saved your team last year.
Alshon brought me to the finals where I lost, but still, so I picked him up when Julio Jones went down more or less.
Pretty good trade.
Pretty good trade-off, I'd say.
Yeah, so I think that you shouldn't be worried about 2 great receivers being in one offense.
It can happen.
We saw Demaryius Thomas and Wes Welker. They were probably both.
And Eric Decker and Julius Thomas.
Yeah, I mean.
But more importantly, these guys are 2 ridiculous talents. Yeah. Alshon Jeffery broke the Bears' single-game receiving record last year and then did it again.
Yeah, he's pretty bad.
He is insane. Brandon Marshall isn't too shabby either. No. He can more than hold his own. And the reason we do have Brandon Marshall ahead is because he is the better red zone target.
A little more proven, sure.
He's going to get more touchdowns, we assume, although Alshon Jeffery is certainly...
Right. And there are some concerns that most of Alshon Jeffery's huge numbers came when Josh McCown was playing.
I don't think that's too...
Well, there are some people who are worried about that. And that's true. I mean, that is true that he played better with Josh McCown. Jay Cutler's a better quarterback than Josh McCown. Alshon Jeffery is awesome.
Yep.
Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, I think Jay Cutler is probably going to want to throw to Alshon Jeffery, if anything.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Now, officially moving into Tier 2, we'll do numbers 6 to 15 first. So number 6, we've got Antonio Brown. 7, as we said, Alshon Jeffery. 8, we've got Jordy Nelson. 9, Julio Jones. 10, Randall Cobb. 11, Vincent Jackson. 12, Pierre Garcon. 13, Wes Welker. 14, Keenan Allen. And 15, Andre the Giant of Houston. So let's start with Antonio Brown. Why do we have him so high up? We've got him higher than a lot of people.
Yeah, we do. And I think the word with him is consistency.
Antonio Brown is the kind of guy who's going to get like 8 receptions a game at least?
Yeah.
Did he lead the league in receptions last year?
If he didn't, he was close. I mean,
I'm going to look that up while he either led the league in receptions or targets.
So one of the things with Antonio Brown going into last year is we thought, without Mike Wallace taking the top off the defense, Antonio Brown's not going to be able to get open. Turned out it wasn't really a problem. Antonio Brown's a great route runner, great hands, and it doesn't really matter who's lining up across from him. He's going to perform. He was one of the most consistent receivers in fantasy last year.
He was number 2 behind Pierre Garcon.
Really? Pierre Garcon
110 receptions for Antonio Brown.
And how many touchdowns?
Antonio Brown had 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, not bad.
Not bad at all.
So you look at a guy whose value isn't exclusively tied to the touchdown. I think he could get more than 8 touchdowns this year.
They don't have Emmanuel Sanders anymore.
Right. So. And they're looking basically at Marcus Wheaton, who was a draft pick this year to be their number 2 guy. They also lost Jericho Crabtree.
Yeah.
So I mean, we'll have to see with them, but I think Antonio Brown's a great pick, and I think he's really safe.
Antonio Brown, you expect him to get you 7+ points a week, if not like 20+.
Yeah,
because he not only has the consistency week to week, but he also has the occasional monstrous game that can just take over a matchup for you. We like Antonio Brown a lot.
Love him.
We also happen to like the 2 receivers on Green Bay. Now here, obviously...
two top 10 receivers as well.
Yeah, now... They've got a pretty good quarterback as well. If anything, a little better than Jay Cutler.
He doesn't smoke as much.
His
lungs are certainly cleaner.
Yes. Now, the reason we have Randall Cobb behind Jordy Nelson is obviously...
just issues of consistency, right? Jordy Nelson's done it longer than Randall Cobb has, and Randall Cobb hasn't really made it through a full season yet.
And that's a little worrisome.
Yeah, I mean, you're betting on Randall Cobb's upside. You were betting on his upside when you picked him last year. I think one year we might get a full season out of Randall Cobb, or at least
I sure hope so.
Or at least enough games to get us like a top 25 performance out of Randall Cobb.
Yep.
And he's got the talent, and he's looked good in the preseason so far. I like Randall Cobb a lot, but you do have to start to worry with a guy like him, and the guy above him, by the way, number 9,
We
Julio
will talk
Jones.
about him next.
Yeah. With injury concerns, absolutely. Jordy Nelson has been a lot more consistent because he's been on the field.
Now, the one thing I will say about Jordy Nelson, while he is more consistent injury-wise, he is less consistent game to game because he is really dependent on the deep ball and touchdowns. Jordy Nelson, the difference between him catching a 70-yard bomb or not could be the difference between him having a great week or a really bad week.
It's true. Randall Cobb certainly works more over the middle. We'll see the ball a little bit more, definitely.
So assuming he can stay healthy, Randall Cobb is probably the more reliable of the 2, but his health is a question. And we know Aaron Rodgers loves Jordy Nelson.
We bet.
So both of them, though, are great picks. We like them both. Julio Jones we have lower than most people, and it's not a matter of talent.
We love Julio Jones.
Julio Jones is insane. If it were strictly a matter of talent, we'd probably have him all the way up at number 6.
I mean, he's like the closest guy to that next group, that tier 1, right?
He would be tier 1 if it weren't for the fact that he has broken the same bone in the same foot twice. And it's not like he's old. This isn't like a fluke.
No, he's young.
He had a nail or a screw to repair it the first time it was broken, and he broke that. That's not good. That's not like Jamal Charles tears his ACL. Right. Oh, no, it might happen again. No, that's kind of like a coincidence. It happens. Everyone's susceptible to happen that. Most people don't break the same bone in the same foot twice, and it's worrisome.
Yeah, I think it's important that receivers have healthy feet. I mean...
Yeah. So the thing with Julio Jones, if he plays a full season, he's insane. Yeah. He is awesome. Matt Ryan's a great quarterback. We love Matty Ice. But his health is possibly more of an issue than anyone else on this list, and it impacts his value more than anyone else.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot more to add than that. He's an explosive player, but again, he's one of those guys that you want to have some solidity other places on your roster if you're going to go for Julio Jones.
Absolutely. Now we're going to go on to our 2 Washington receivers who we did briefly talk about, which are Pierre Garcon at number 12 and Desean Jackson rounding out tier 2 at number 17. What are your thoughts?
Well, Pierre Garcon was actually the guy who was ahead of Antonio Brown in receptions.
Which is pretty surprising when you think about it.
Yeah, it really was, considering how bad that Washington offense was last year. I like Pierre Garcon a lot. I think he's the safer own, and that is reflected in our rankings. He's going to see a lot of the ball. He's not the deep threat that Desean Jackson is.
More consistency week to week.
Right, but then his value isn't as dependent on the bomb. Again, sort of like the Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson discussion. I like Pierre Garcon a lot, and Would you be happy with Pierre Garcon as your number one receiver?
So here's the thing. Prior to this past preseason game, sure, RG3 scared the living hell out of me.
Yeah?
I'm worried about him.
You're worried about him?
He didn't look good.
Okay, so you're not...
He didn't look healthy.
So, oh, okay. It's a health problem, you think?
I forget, was it week 2 or week 3? I think it was considered week 2, but like he tried sliding and he came up limping after it.
Yeah.
There is... Assuming RG3 is in his 2012 form, I think Pierre Garcon is a legitimate wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
That said, we really don't know, because last year RG3 did not look like an elite quarterback.
He was really bad last year.
And for all we know, that's the same guy we're going to see this year. And if that's the case, Pierre Garcon, if anything, is lower. Barely a wide receiver 2 in that case. The reassuring thing is he did well with the bad RG3 last year, but I'm still really hesitant on both of these guys. It's why we have them outside of the top 10.
Yeah, I agree. I'm more nervous about Desean Jackson. Just like you said, RG3 had a bad year last year, and Pierre Garcon still produced. Desean Jackson, I don't know, RG3 was not good on deep balls last year, and that's Desean Jackson's game.
And we expect him to throw less deep balls this year, correct?
That's true. Yeah, we do. So I don't know. I don't know about those guys. I'm a little bit worried just because I think a really good offense can sustain 2 receivers and keep them very fantasy relevant. I just don't know if that's going to be the kind of offense that Washington has, especially with Alfred Morris, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Because I think he's going to have a great year as well. And with Jordan Reed, one of the elite tight ends, right? One of the best non-elite guys.
Sure.
You got to be a little bit careful with that offense.
Absolutely. Now moving on to Tier 3, our final tier. These guys are all guys who you probably are comfortable starting on your team, but they might not have that elite production level or necessarily the same consistency. We'll go in depth on a few of them. Number 18, Larry Fitzgerald. Number 19, Percy Harvin. Number 20, Michael Crabtree. 21, Roddy White. TV.
Yeah, right.
22, Michael Floyd. 23, Cordarrelle Patterson. 24, T.Y. Hilton. 25, Torrey Smith. 26, Jeremy Maclin. 27, Marques Colston. 28, Julian Edelman. 29, Reggie Wayne. And 30, we've got Sammy Watkins. So, which of these guys catch your eye here?
I really like Michael Floyd at number 22.
I love Michael Floyd at number 22.
Yeah, Michael Floyd, I think last year took some steps to becoming kind of the number 1 guy in that Arizona Cardinals offense.
Behind Andre Roberts, who is now gone.
Right.
To Washington.
So I think in terms of relative name value, Michael Floyd's going a little bit later than Larry Fitzgerald. You know Larry Fitzgerald. We've seen what he's done, but I think Michael Floyd's the guy to go with in that offense.
I think with regards to where you're getting them, Michael Floyd is going to get you better value. Larry Fitzgerald, he's got the name recognition, so a lot of people are just going to take him by like, oh, he's one of the best receivers in Cardinals franchise history. Let's get him. But at the same time, he hasn't been particularly great over the last 2 years.
Right.
Carson Palmer is always a question to survive the season against that NFC West.
Yikes.
And again, and this is the issue, Larry Fitzgerald sees number 1 corners.
Yep.
Michael Floyd does not.
That's right. And especially with the corners and the defenses in that division. I mean, yeah, Michael Floyd certainly is not going to be going up against Richard Sherman.
Well, Richard Sherman plays a side of the field. He doesn't.
Okay.
But regardless, that is true, though. Larry Fitzgerald is usually going to be matched up against the tougher corner, and I don't think the skill level is as far apart as most people would say. So we like Michael Floyd a lot. We also like Cordarrelle Patterson, but he's a weird one. On the one hand, extremely talented, extremely versatile. He's Percy Harvin 2.0 in Minnesota.
That's a good point, with better hair.
With far better hair. On the other hand, he's going to have either Teddy Bridgewater or Matt Castle thrown to him, neither of which leave me super excited.
Yeah, so I love Cordarrelle Patterson in leagues that reward receivers who have had, return yards, return touchdowns.
Well, yeah.
He's a huge guy worth looking for in those sorts of leagues. But as a receiver, he came on strong the last couple weeks of last year. But I'm a little worried about him as a receiver, especially with those quarterbacks that you were talking about. Yeah. I don't know if he's the kind of elite guy that can produce regardless of who the quarterback. Like, he's not an A.J. Green, right?
Which is why we have him ranked at number 23. Very talented, but the situation
leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
We'll see about Teddy Bridgewater, but so far, leaves a lot to be desired.
Now, going on to Jeremy Maclin.
Really interesting this year.
We really don't know where he's going to end up. He could end up just outside the top 10 receivers this year if all goes according to plan. He could also not really be all that relevant at all.
I mean, we dropped the ball on Desean Jackson last year.
Well, let's not talk about that. No one has to remember.
We had him number 1 last year. What are you guys talking about?
So the thing with Jeremy Maclin is we really don't know where he stands health-wise.
Yep.
And we also don't expect Nick Foles to be the insane stud that he was last year. He probably will regress.
Yep.
Not to mention, the Eagles' flawless offensive line probably not going to be quite as sustained. So you add all that together and contrast it with the fact that he is going to be the number 1 receiver in a Nick Foles and Chip Kelly offense, it really creates an interesting situation.
Do you think he's as good of a player as Desean Jackson?
I do not.
Yeah, neither do I. So, something to be concerned about for sure.
Absolutely. Also, he's competing with Zach Ertz and Riley Cooper, right. So even though he does appear to be the number 1 target, it's not by a long margin.
Yeah, they've had a rookie they brought in who's looked really good in preseason.
Now, moving on to one last one. Sammy Watkins. Another thing like Cordarrelle Patterson.
Yeah, he's been a little dinged up so far in the preseason. Bit of a rib injury from the last game, but last preseason game, but everything looks fine. There's no, contusion or anything serious. Here's another good receiver, or a good receiver we think. Good receiver, crappy quarterback.
So, we have Brandon Cooks outside our top 30, although he is one of our...
we love Brandon Cooks.
We love Brandon Cooks.
Very fast.
If personally, he'd be number 31 on my list.
Yeah.
And I love taking him.
You love taking him.
He's got a lot of upside. As we said, best case scenario, he's Darren Sproles 2.0, and that's pretty good.
That's valuable.
Especially where he's going. Now, here's my question.
Go for it.
Given their situations, who has more fantasy points at the end of the year, Sammy Watkins or Brandon Cooks?
That's a really good question. So, fantasy rookie receivers for fantasy.
We're not talking like how good they are as a player.
No, I know. I got you.
I'm sorry.
Rookie receivers in fantasy is like a very dangerous game.
Mm-hmm.
The last guys we saw really produce,
AJ Green,
Keenan Allen,
Tavon Austin.
Right, exactly. So
yeah.
For every Keenan Allen, there's a Tavon Austin, and for every Julio Jones and AJ Green, there are guys we don't know about now. So.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit worried about Sammy Watkins. I do have him in one of my leagues, and I like him. And, I mean, if you watched any of his highlights at Clemson, Jesus Christ, the guy's so good.
Yeah, but then, again, same thing like Cordarrelle Patterson.
You like E.J. Manuel?
Nope.
Yeah, so Sammy Watkins is someone you have to be careful with. I don't think you should take him as anything more than your flex.
Yeah, if anything, I'd have him as high as a flex. And I wouldn't be ecstatic about that.
Yeah.
But then again, he's got great upside because he's so talented.
So I think Watkins will have more points than Cooks by the end of the year. But I think Mike Evans on Tampa Bay will have more than both of them. That's my
I would agree, except for Josh McCown's play so far.
Yeah, and Vincent Jackson too.
I think Drew Brees throwing to him and having that kind of dual receiver running back type role is going to give Brandon Cooks a lot more value.
You worried about Kenny Stills?
I'm not worried about Kenny Stills.
Right.
I think they're going to fill different roles.
You're worried about the awesomely named Nick Toon?
Yes, I am worried about Nick Toon.
We're worried. That's so cool.
Same with Cartoon. Who has yet to enter the league, but promise me he will.
Guys, keep your eyes out for Cartoon.
So that rounds out our top 30. Some honorable mentions that didn't quite make the list. Obviously, Brandon Cooks, Kendall Wright, Golden Tate, an interesting one in Detroit.
Golden Tate, yeah.
Certainly could be a flex option.
Sure, absolutely. Filling the role of Nate Burleson. I mean, I think he's probably a marginally better player than Nate Burleson.
He doesn't drop the ball.
And that helps.
Yeah.
But I don't think that'll make him extremely valuable in fantasy. Some people are looking at him as a wide receiver 2. I think that's way too high.
Wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
We also have Emmanuel Sanders, who, while normally not great, he's got Peyton Manning throwing to him. Best case scenario, he's Eric Decker of last year, which is certainly startable.
And I mean, you think talent-wise is probably, 75% of Decker? 80?
I would say 80.
Yeah.
So Emmanuel Sanders, definitely worth owning. And, if all things work out, he could be a flex, if not borderline wide receiver 2.
Absolutely.
He also could turn out to not be much in a very crowded offense.
Sure.
So we'll see. Cecil Short's the third with no Justin Blackmon and a Blaine Gabbert, who's so far in the Blaine Gabbert.
Blake Bortles.
Blake Bortles.
The Blake Bortles.
The other B quarterback. Blake Bortles looks pretty good. Preseason doesn't necessarily mean much for rookie quarterbacks, but as the number one receiver in that offense, or at least what looks to be the number one receiver alongside Marques Lee, we gotta like Cecil Shorts III.
Yeah, I mean he's been good the last couple of years. He was respectable last year.
Absolutely,
a pretty good flex every week last year.
Don't sleep on Cecil.
Never sleep on Cecil, you guys. I know a lot of people who have slept on Cecil. And,
it's a bad idea.
Frankly, I haven't spoken to them.
It's the kind of ways that you destroy a friendship by sleeping on Cecil.
Yeah, that's right.
Never make that mistake again.
Just don't do it.
And finally, DeAndre Hopkins.
You like him this year.
Great talent. Interesting situation. Don't know if he's going to take that next step. Unlike some of the guys we've mentioned, I don't know if I can confidently say that he'll be startable at any point in the season.
I mean, he's not Michael Floyd. He's in a similar situation as Michael Floyd is, but Michael Floyd's the better player and has proven himself to be the more reliable fantasy option.
So far, DeAndre Hopkins has done nothing to prove that he is a flex.
But boy, he's tantalizing.
Tantalizing is a great word. Yum. Without further ado, what am I saying without further ado? With that out of the way, thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, as I've said it a million times, comment section, Twitter, Facebook, all of the above. You can hit us up on there, chat to us, become our friends. And
become our friends. We need them. We need them.
We need friends.
Now accepting all friend applications.
Yes. And on that note, thanks for watching. My name is Alec.
My name is Alex.
And we will see you next time.